The shovel-tusked elephant was one of the strangest beasts to ever walk the earth. An elephant with 4 tusks and a jaw shaped like a shovel. Its mouth could slice, scoop, and rip through the toughest terrain, giving it access to food no other giant could reach. For millions of years, it dominated rivers, wetlands, and forests across multiple continents. But then, without warning, this unstoppable titan disappeared. Fossils of shovel-tusked elephants first drew attention in the early 1900s when paleontologists uncovered odd jaw fragments in Eurasia and parts of Africa. At first, experts struggled to understand what these wide lower tusks represented. Traditional elephant fossils had only the usual 2 upper tusks, so this discovery hinted at a different branch of proboscidean evolution. Researchers soon named genera like Platybelodon and Amebelodon to highlight the animal's flat lower tusks. Other finds, including partial skulls, mandibles, and scattered limb bones, confirmed that these creatures stood apart from modern elephants. Scientists placed these animals in the family Amebelodontidae, a group that diverged from the lines leading to modern elephants and mammoths. Within this family, each genus showed its variations in tusk shape and jaw length. Platybelodon, for example, displayed an especially wide spoon-like mandible. Amebelodon had a narrower, yet still elongated jaw. Each name often referenced the flattened design of their incisors, which made them look like living shovels. Over time, more fossils emerged from sites in China, Mongolia, and parts of Eastern Europe, building a clearer picture of how far these animals spread. Classifying these elephant relatives proved challenging. Some early scholars thought they might be swamp dwellers that fed only on aquatic plants, while others linked them to large ancestors of modern elephants. Genetic studies are not possible, as DNA rarely survives from such ancient ages. Instead, experts compared skull shapes, tooth wear, and jaw structure. The more data they collected, the more they realized that shovel-tusked elephants were a unique offshoot, not a direct stepping stone to African or Asian elephants. One puzzling detail was how to interpret the lower tusks. Some paleontologists proposed they served as scoops for mud or water plants, while others believed they cut through thick vegetation. These debates fueled new digs. Teams uncovered skeletons with special jaw muscles and tooth enamel ridges, showing that the lower tusks were more complex than simple tools. Each new fossil site raised fresh questions. Did these elephants travel in herds? How did they compete with other large mammals? Such mysteries continued to inspire research as scientists pieced together the story of a group that redefined what it meant to be an elephant. Shovel-tusked elephants emerged during the Miocene, a time of shifting climates and expanding grasslands. Early proboscideans were experimenting with new ways to feed, and the broad lower tusks of these animals opened doors to plants that others could not reach. Instead of tall, rigid teeth like mammoths or conical cusps like mastodons, they forged a unique path by flattening their lower incisors into shovel-like structures. In Asia, some of the earliest forms arose in areas with seasonal rains. Lush riverbanks likely supported stands of wetland vegetation. Fossils from Mongolia and China reveal how these elephants adapted to local conditions. Meanwhile, more finds in Africa suggest a parallel spread, although differences in jaw size or tusk angle hint at subtle variations. Researchers propose that the shared trait of wide lower tusks came from a common ancestor in the Amebelodontidae lineage, with each species fine-tuning that feature over time. This divergence shaped their place in the broader proboscidean family tree. While modern elephants followed a course leading to the Elephantidae family, shovel-tuskers veered off, focusing on a specialized feeding apparatus. Over millions of years, different climates pressured them to refine their strategies. Some took advantage of marshy lowlands, while others exploited the edges of forests. Each group had teeth shaped by repeated contact with tough plants or gritty sediment, a clue to what they ate most often. Fossil localities holding partial skeletons reveal that these elephants sometimes coexisted with huge rhinos, forming a dynamic ecosystem. Competitive interactions likely spurred further adaptation. If water plants dried up, a population might shift to bark or tubers, building stronger jaws or thicker tusk enamel. Some species thrived, while others vanished if habitats changed too fast. This wave of branching and possible extinction events explains why their bones appear sporadically in the rock record. By the end of the Miocene, shovel-tusked elephants were a recognized presence across broad territories. Younger strata yield fewer remains, implying certain forms faced extinction as climates cooled or grew unpredictable. Genetic analyses are not available for these extinct lines, so paleontologists rely on tooth microwear, jaw mechanics, and bone arrangement to reconstruct their ancestry. Shovel-tusked elephants combined basic elephant traits with dramatic twists. Their long trunk and robust body looked familiar at first, but the lower jaw projected outward in a broad arc. This shape ended in two flat incisor tusks that formed a shovel-like surface. The upper tusks, though present, seemed less imposing compared to the bold scoop below. Skull studies show a reinforced mandible equipped with sturdy muscle attachments to manage heavy feeding loads. The lower tusks were sheathed in strong enamel, often worn down in angled patterns. Some species had tusks that flared out, while others displayed narrower edges, hinting at subtle differences in local diets. This specialized jaw design likely demanded a slightly altered head posture. In many specimens, the jaw joint sits higher than that of typical elephants, granting extra leverage for prying or scraping. Their bodies could be large. Certain forms matched the size of modern elephants, while others were a bit smaller or stouter. Leg bones indicate they bore massive weight, suggesting thick limbs and broad foot pads that stabilized them in muddy or soft ground. Yet some remains imply more agility than we might expect from such big creatures. They needed to cross mixed terrain, from riverbanks to forest edges. That versatility shaped everything from their joint structure to the shape of their shoulders. Another clue emerges from tooth arrangement. Besides the lower tusks, they also had strong molars with ridges suited for chewing tough plants. The combination of slicing edges on the shovel-like tusks and grinding surfaces on the molars made them effective multi-purpose feeders. Their trunk, though lacking direct fossil conformation of soft tissue, must have been flexible enough to guide branches, grasses, or submerged vegetation onto the shovel. This synergy let them grab, cut, and chew, all in one fluid motion. These elephants harnessed their lower tusks in creative ways. Many paleontologists once pictured them knee-deep in swamps, using the tusks like scoops for aquatic plants. Yet later research broadened this view. Wear patterns on some jaws show scuffs and grooves that fit a bark stripping method, while others suggest slicing through grasses or reeds. Rather than having a single feeding style, shovel-tuskers likely adapted to a range of food sources. Imagine one of these giants wading into a shallow wetland. The trunk drifts across the surface, spotting leafy stems or floating greens. With a downward tilt of the head, the lower tusks press into soft mud, capturing thick clumps of vegetation. Then, with a pull of the trunk, the plants slide onto the shovel's edge, ready for chewing. In drier periods, the same elephant might wander to a nearby grove. There, it braces a trunk full of branches against the shovel to tear off bark strips or outer wood. This approach yielded nutrients hidden beneath tough surfaces. Roots and tubers were also prime targets. By digging shallow pits, they uncovered starchy foods that other herbivores could not easily reach. Some finds show scratch lines on the underside of tusks that might come from scraping dirt or gravel. Over time, these repeated actions would round the tusk tips, giving them a distinctive wear pattern. Each site's local environment influenced how much time they spent on aquatic plants versus roots or bark. Young individuals likely perfected their technique by watching adults. A calf might start with softer shoots, building strength in its jaw before attempting heavier tasks like uprooting tubers. Meanwhile, older members with fully developed tusks could manage denser material. Their flexible trunk added fine control, enabling them to pick single stems or big bundles. Together, trunk and shovel formed a dynamic feeding system that set them apart from typical two-tusked elephants. Some authors propose that this feeding flexibility granted them an edge in regions with seasonal changes. When wetlands dried, they could shift to dry land resources, and vice versa. Yet it also meant that any extreme environmental shift could jeopardize part of their diet. While adept at multiple tasks, they still relied on wetlands or forests with abundant plant life. Through this combination of trunk skills and shovel tusks, they met daily nutritional needs in ways unmatched by other giant herbivores. Most shovel-tusked elephants thrived in zones with water, such as river valleys, swamps, or seasonal floodplains. Their broad tusks needed softer ground for digging up roots, and aquatic plants often grew thick in these places. Fossils in certain strata reveal them near ancient lakes, where sediment layers preserve footprints and broken twigs. Yet they did not limit themselves only to marshes. Some finds come from woodland edges or mixed savanna settings, proving they could adapt to varied terrain. In lush wetlands, they had easy access to reeds and other succulent plants. Bogs and swamps offered a steady supply of water, crucial for large proboscideans. Here, they might share space with smaller amphibious mammals or large wading birds. Tree stumps with shredded bark remain as evidence that these elephants occasionally stripped trunks. When water receded, the shovel-tusker might move along the river corridor, searching for fresh stands of grass or shrubs. In forested zones, they took advantage of thicker vegetation. Traces of leaf fragments or twig, cut marks in surrounding fossil sites, highlight browsing behavior. They also left behind path-like impressions where repeated foraging carved out trails. Their wide jaws allowed them to gather large amounts of foliage in a single maneuver. Even in slightly drier areas, shallow waterholes offered relief. These animals could dig with the lower tusks to reach moist soil layers that smaller creatures could not tap. Climate changes sometimes affect their prime habitats. During wetter phases, populations expanded along floodplains. When drier cycles returned, water sources shrank, pushing herds to retreat or shift diets. Over time, these cycles shaped local shovel-tusker communities, with some groups specializing in muddy wetlands, others adjusting to patchy woodlands. Their footprints in certain ancient lake beds show that multiple individuals may have gathered at once, hinting at possible herd dynamics. Being large herbivores, they influenced the environment. By uprooting or stripping plants, they could open gaps in vegetation, creating feeding spots for smaller animals. Their dung likely spread seeds, supporting plant growth across wide areas. This interplay suggests that shovel-tuskers helped maintain diverse habitats. They were not mere wanderers, but active participants in shaping the ecology around them. Whether in thick reeds or along forest margins, their presence resonated across the ancient landscape. Shovel-tusked elephants stood among the largest herbivores of their time. Their size alone granted them a deterrent against predators, though big cats or bear-like carnivores might have tested the young or sick. The real advantage lay in how they accessed food that other creatures could not. By digging, scraping, and scooping, they tapped into water plants, bark, or underground tubers that slower or smaller herbivores rarely reached. In many areas, they coexisted with multiple large grazers, including ancient horses or rhinoceroses. Each group carved out a niche. Horses favored open grass, rhinos took to browsing shrubs, and shovel-tuskers combined aquatic and bark-based strategies. This partitioning lets them reduce direct feeding conflicts. Still, overlap occurred at waterholes or when certain plants were in short supply. During stressful times, these elephants likely used their imposing frame to claim prime feeding spots, chasing away lesser rivals. Their social structure remains unclear. Fossil trackways occasionally show parallel footprints, hinting at group travel. Shared skeleton deposits in certain quarries propose that they might have gathered or died together. If they had social bonds akin to modern elephants, older individuals might have led family units to stable water or better feeding grounds. Such guidance would have bolstered the group's survival in dry spells. Their wide jaws and strong trunk gave them the means to transform certain patches of land. Pulling bark from trees left scarring that shaped forest growth. Extracting roots caused soil disturbance, creating bare patches for new seedlings. Some scientists argue that these processes elevated them to a keystone herbivore, with effects rippling through local ecosystems. Smaller animals could exploit the changes in vegetation structure, while certain plants depended on the clearing. Competition might have flared with other trunk-bearing relatives. Early mastodons or gomphotheres roamed some of the same territories. In direct encounters, the shovel-tusker's specialized mouthparts might have given it an edge for certain food sources. Over time, shifting climates or migrations could alter who thrived. If wetlands dried or new predators arrived, the balance changed. But for as long as conditions favored them, shovel-tusked elephants reigned near rivers and bogs, commanding the resources they needed. Their powerful jaws and curious feeding styles let them flourish, shaping both the land and the broader web of life they inhabited. As time pressed on, the once thriving shovel-tusked elephants found their favored habitats changing. Temperatures dropped, rainfall patterns shifted, and grasslands expanded in some areas, while wetlands shrank in others. The specialized feeding needs of these animals, well-tuned to moist soils and abundant vegetation, turned into liabilities when water sources receded. Marshy zones turned to dry flats, and river courses altered, robbing them of the easy foraging they relied upon. Some species tried to adjust by focusing more on bark or deeper tubers, but changes to local plant communities could be swift. If a wetland dried faster than the elephants could adapt, entire populations might suffer. In addition, new competitors and predators evolved or arrived. Dire wolves and big cats may have posed threats to calves. Other large herbivores, including advanced elephant lineages, also spread. These incoming groups sometimes used resources more efficiently or occupied overlapping niches. Humans may not have played a direct role in the earliest shovel-tusker extinctions, as many species vanished long before large-scale human expansion. Instead, the environment itself dealt the biggest blows. Fluctuations in climate over the late Miocene and into the Pliocene created repeated stress. Long migrations in search of stable habitats wore down herds. Fragmented populations grew more vulnerable to disease or inbreeding. The once great range of shovel-tuskers shrank, leaving only scattered pockets of survivors. Fossil evidence in younger layers shows a steep drop in shovel-tusker remains. Even the more adaptable species diminished. Paleontologists note that the shape of jaws in later forms seemed less extreme, as if those groups tried to moderate their specialized design. But the final shift into more arid conditions spelled doom. Some localities show a final scattering of bones, with no sign of younger layers to continue the story. Eventually, these four-tusked giants faded from their landscapes, leaving behind confusion for future explorers. Early diggers found the odd jaws and wondered how such animals could vanish. In truth, their extinction likely arose from a blend of habitat loss, tough competition, and global climate swings. Their reign ended, clearing the way for other proboscideans. By the dawn of the Pleistocene, shovel-tuskers were memories in the rock record, overshadowed by the rise of mammoths and modern elephants. Although shovel-tusked elephants disappeared millions of years ago, their fossils continue to fascinate researchers. Paleontologists see them as prime examples of how trunked mammals can evolve remarkable features when environmental openings present new feeding possibilities. The mix of upper and lower tusks challenges our usual picture of elephants, proving that even close relatives can adopt very different diets and lifestyles. Studying these extinct giants helps us appreciate the diversity that once existed among proboscideans. We tend to think only of mammoths and mastodons when imagining ancient elephants, but shovel-tuskers reveal another branch that broke away. By analyzing their teeth and jaw mechanics, scientists refine their ideas about how big herbivores shaped ecosystems. These animals, with their strong shovel tusks, likely stirred up riverbanks, trimmed young trees, and dug up roots, affecting plant regrowth patterns. Museums often display large reconstructions of Platybelodon or Amebelodon jaws, letting visitors see how alien they look compared to modern elephant skulls. Such exhibits underscore the dynamic nature of evolution. While some lineages produce simpler changes, others swing for bold adaptations. Even though they vanished, their place in Earth's history reminds us that survival can hinge on specialized traits. When climates shift too fast, those same traits can become drawbacks. Academic work on shovel-tuskers also guides conversations about the future. As global weather patterns become less predictable, understanding how past species dealt with dryness or habitat loss offers valuable lessons. These elephants once excelled at thriving along wetlands, only to fall when those wetlands changed. In comparing their story to that of current animals, we see parallels. Many big herbivores today face shrinking resources, and a specialized diet can spell trouble. The shovel-tusked elephant's story merges curiosity, power, and adaptation. It thrived by reshaping the typical elephant blueprint, sporting a lower shovel that changed how it ate and lived. With each fossil discovery, we looked into an age when four-tusked giants ruled wetlands and forests. Changing climates eventually pushed them aside, paving the road for mammoths and modern elephants. Yet their story resonates, reminding us that evolution's path is never fixed.